Right now, we're talking about the town of Guadalupe. They're on the verge of going broke over the next few years. If they can't come up with a way to bring in some more dough or to eliminate some debt that they could be facing. So why should you're driving around in Chandler, passing by Chandler Mall, or you're out in Mesa, or coming through Phoenix, maybe you're driving through Guadalupe. Why should you give a rip about a town that's got 5,300 people, that spans less than 1 square mile, that's wedged between Phoenix and right by the Arizona Mills Mall right there? Why should you care about Guadalupe and their 50-year history? And I would say the big reason, Steve, is don't fool yourself. If this can happen to a town of 5,000 people, yes, Guadalupe has a unique set of circumstances, not a ton of stores, not a lot of city employees, not a ton of infrastructure. But if it could happen to Guadalupe, you better believe that it can happen to Goodyear. It can happen to Buckeye. It could happen in Wickenburg. It could happen in Phoenix. That those cities, mo money, mo problems, right?
Thanks for squeezing that in.
Oh,
there's no question about it.
It's not the first time. It's not the last time you'll hear it today.
Good, okay. Because as you said, Guadalupe has a unique set of problems here that they can't just solve with growth. And I mean, I've lived here a huge portion of my life, and I don't mean this in a cynical, pejorative way, negative way at all. It's that a lot of cities and a lot of areas of this state have grown their way out of problems. It's let's bring in more people. Let's have more affordable housing, which is not quite the case anymore. Let's have weather that now it's down to maybe 7 months a year, but 9 months of the year used to be fantastic. Let's get the sunshine. We get all these people in here.
You mentioned just a few minutes ago, let's put in a new apartment complex. Let's bring in more people. Let's recruit people to the valley. Let's see what we can do to grow our area. When you're less than a square mile, Guadalupe doesn't so much have that opportunity. So this is where I turn to you and I say, Mr. 20, 30 plus years in public radio. You've talked about these stories all the time. You're smart, Steve.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
So it's time for you to pontificate. Give me the solution for Guadalupe, because I don't think they can simply put in a new apartment complex. And yes, there's needs for affordable housing all throughout the valley. So maybe they could put in a new apartment and get some people to come to Guadalupe. But if you're in charge of Guadalupe, Steve Goldstein, what do you do? What are your first few steps to make sure that they still have the lights on beyond 2031 and they're not down to one city employee?
You kind of poo-pooed me a little bit, but I will dig in more deeply on the idea of increasing your tax base. You have to get some more people doing something. So the first thing I would do is you try to recruit local businesses.
Okay.
You try to recruit whether it's...
Where do you put them though too? Because there's not... how much open space is there in Guadalupe? You've got houses that are already set up. You have a couple markets and unique flavors of, the Guadalupe town, but it's not as though of that less than 1 square mile, that half of it is barren and open to be built upon.
But the reason I think that there's some hope there, depending on the connection, is because people want to preserve what's unique about Guadalupe.
Which is the culture.
Yeah. Then there are local businesses who fit in with that perfectly. And Joe, I'm not saying you're going to have the equivalent of it. You mentioned Chandler Mall. Of course you can't have. That's way too small, and that would be ridiculous. And people at this point in that area don't have the money to spend to make it a real consumer area. I'm talking about bringing in moms and pops to freshen things up. But the key thing to do is you have to make it attractive for businesses to grow there, even if it's just a local business that has 2 other offices and they're going to put a tiny one in Guadalupe. You just need to generate activity in some way. You need to get I know you probably don't want a fast food place in Guadalupe, I get it, but is there a local chain, a local chain specifically, and you put in one of their...
Well, we know Chris Merrill loves Filiberto's.
Okay, you can put a Filiberto's in there. You can put a Pita Jungle in there. I don't know, but something that gets more people from Tempe or just down the street to say, I'm not just going to drive through Guadalupe. I'm going to stop and take a look around and see what this place has to offer. And maybe they have cultural fest. I don't know, but something to get more people there on a Friday afternoon, a Saturday afternoon, to say, wow, I had no idea this was here. I might come back here.
So do you think is it about just growing the business aspect of Guadalupe, or is it also about growing the residential aspect and taking the town of 5,300 to perhaps 7,300 or 8,300. And then that issue becomes too of it seems like this double-edged sword, Steve, of if the city's going to grow, won't they have a need for more city employees? And when the city employees back in, I believe 2020, it was around $60,000.
Yeah.
And now in 2024, it's up over $100,000. So
Thanks, Joe. The other Joe. Thanks, Joe Biden. I'm making no jokes there. Inflation joke, you know.
Talking about me. Yeah, Joe Biden. That's what I do. Put more money in your pocket.
There you go.
But make you pay more for the gas and
I'm loving this. I don't think I've heard you do this one before.
groceries.
It's
They're way up
random
too.
words.
Gas and groceries.
Yeah.
Way more expensive. Joe Biden. Vote for me again.
I love that. That was good.
So you have this problem where if you're going to grow and you're going to add more people or add more business, you're going to need to add more city employees, which is what's getting them in trouble too.
I'm not sure though, because we don't. You and I didn't run through their budget with a fine tooth comb, and I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong.
Trust me, you don't want us to.
Yeah, and also, I mean, with the MCSO, I don't know how busy MCSO is in Guadalupe. So maybe
I don't think they're very busy.
Yeah, so if they're not, then maybe there's a chance of not having to expand what you've got. Maybe you get some more contractors in there. I'm just saying, I think you need to do what other communities in the area have done. You have to do it so it makes sense by your ratio of population versus growth. But it's growth. It's freshening things up. But Guadalupe has a unique character. I keep saying this. You can't just completely gentrify it and say, hey, by Guadalupe, we're going to make this it's going to be a little fun place for those of us for, 5,000 people.
Well, the problem that they're seeing though, too, is not unique to Guadalupe. When it comes to first responders, the bill is very expensive. Yeah. And for police and fire for Guadalupe, it's over half of their budget. And again, we didn't go through Glendale or Goodyear or, other cities out here's budgets, but it's big bills. And first responders, people never want to cut police and fire because they always want to feel safe. And that is a problem that we have throughout the valley of how expensive is it? How do we make sure that we still have the best and that we can make sure to keep the lights on in all of these cities as well? It's not a problem that's going to be going away for any city, town out here anytime soon.
Well, think about how Goodyear has grown so dramatically. It's because they were able to attract either brand new businesses or branches of other businesses. So Guadalupe has to do that to scale in order to try it, I think.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.